Today on What Went Wrong, we accentuate the positive. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and in several of my films there have been accents. Whether it is a British accent, a Swedish, Romanian accent, which would be Dexter from all the way back in Night Watchman.
Go get her back. But be careful. Never underestimate the Texas Ranger.
Who are you looking for? Maybe I went to school with her or something.
I'll check my contacts. See if I can find out what they plan to do with her.
2002, 3.
And that was not a fake accent. That was actually
That's how he
his
talks.
real. He was actually Transylvanian, so he actually had that. And then Western accents, Southern accents for some Westerns, and there have been some pretty atrocious ones there.
They need good hands. They need somebody who knows the lay of the land and is good with the gun.
British accents, and then of course our two Roses have done phenomenal in theirs, especially when especially like Samira, who is just the sweetest, kindest little, hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
And then she brings in this proper British accent.
Yes.
I'm here to give you a warning, Detective.
Uh-huh.
Not everything is as it seems.
All right.
A man that you have grown to trust should not be trusted.
The first time I met Samira was 2007, I guess it was. 2007. And we were still in Texas, right before I was in Detroit at the time. And who was it said that she made them nervous? I can't remember who it was. It was maybe Brad or something that she made him nervous. I was like, why would she make you nervous? It's just when you're around her, she makes me nervous. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, when I met her, she's like, I give it, she's goofy. I was like, okay. But then all of a sudden she put on the British accent. I was like, oh, okay, I can see it now. And she actually did more than just the accent. She would put on that persona. Mm-hmm. More than just the accent, which is the way you do it. And it was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second, Katrina, who stepped in for the second Rose that we had. Mm-hmm. Again.
Perhaps Mike would be sitting where you are. You'd be sitting here, in this pew. Paths, yes, there are many. But in the end, they all lead here, to the same place. That is destiny.
Proper British accent, and she had a very different feel to the character, but still the same.
Yes. Still, we had to work on her diction, or not with her diction, her word
Selection.
order. Word order. Well, because with British, this is, I guess, something we could talk about when it comes to British accents in general. We could probably talk about that a little bit later if you like.
Yeah. Well, you brought it up. So.
Okay, so. British accents being something that I know very well because I worked for a couple years at the Texas Renaissance Festival, and diction and accents are something that we practiced religiously for a while. Now there's people who have terrible accents and some people have good accents. I played a Scottish character at the Renaissance Festival. Of course, this is for 26 years ago, and so it's been a while. And so I'm not sure I could just throw that accent on like I used to, but Scottish accent, the one I learned, the British accent, the Irish accent, they all have different cadences. They have different ways of saying certain things. And if you're going to have, this is one of the, I guess, the challenges of accents. If you're going to be able to use an accent like this, you need to be able to duplicate that. Because one of the things that we worked with what's her name? The new Rose. Katrina she was ending her sentences with a preposition. And the British do not do that. The proper old British. In particular, I remember she wanted Hank to put a shirt on. And she's like, would you please put a shirt on? Like that. Well, British, they would say, would you please put on some clothing?
Would you please put on some clothing?
All right.
And so there was a way you had to make that believable for the character that she was doing it. And that's the challenging part, because you can learn to do the lilt of the Irish, or the brogue of the Scottish, or the stunted pronunciations of the British, of the English.
Private, I do terribly hate to interrupt your soliloquy, or was that an aside?
Technically, sir, it would be narration.
Pish posh! Narration! That's one sin for you, my dear boy! Ha ha!
But unless you get that word order correct, or certain ways they say something, you're not going to be convincing. And I guess that's one of the weird things about accents, is you have to be very careful to do.
Now, you had a very interesting character in Kane, and some people would say, well, I don't like his accent. What is that accent? Exactly. And that was what his character was.
No, nor do I wish it to. But we'll put that vengeance in its place, Mike. Mike, of all the people I have known in my many days, I value your friendship above all others.
The character was 80,000 years old,
Yeah.
And had lived through so many, and that was, I wouldn't have given it to anybody else but you at that time, because, you had the most experience with linguistics and accents and
Well, probably still a lot of the guys,
dialects.
just because I studied it so much, and I studied overseas and lived in Europe for so long.
Yeah, so you would take because I didn't give you every day of this guy's life, so you would create a little bit. Oh, he was probably in Rome and here. He was probably in Greece here. So you're taking bits and pieces of all this and flowing it together and giving more of this accent because it was closer to the time period that we were shooting, as opposed to the time he was in Rome and this. But they all had an influence in the way he spoke.
And not only that, there was what I called actually the Kane speak. It was an actual language they had, the old language, where we just invented a language.
Ablikar Shemo, Timposa vera Shulan kamen. Shinaunda anza Europa gekam. Indoni donsta gladiatosha rosat.
The concept was that language was around before there was such a thing as prepositions, and it was vernacular. As I describe it, it's speaking with a sledgehammer. There's nothing pretty about it. You're just banging out sounds in order to have communication. Which English, basically all language is just a way of manipulating sounds in order to create meanings and then be able to communicate one to the other. And then, of course, the whole Kane character, one of the things he would do is he has a particular way of speaking whenever he's talking, the way he's talking, and he has, is like, the way I described it was, he's using a zero accent diction if he could, but he's still not very good at it. But it's at those times, I guess the idea is the accent is, I am speaking very slowly and succinctly, so what I am saying could be understood without any problem. Like that way we'd speak.
There is no third option. It is binary. It is truth. Two choices. Yes, no, light, dark, live, die. Let the world come to its natural conclusion, or cast us into eternal damnation.
And that was an accent choice. And you could speak with a Scottish brogue, because when we had that one when we were actually in Germany, and you had me playing the Scottish character.
Destroying Lamont is the sword's destiny.
We share the same destiny.
Mayhaps. But it is not for you to decide.
Nor for you. Return to me my sword.
I will. When you are ready.
And so I see if I can still do it anymore. So it was this little process. And for those of you who are going to practice accents, we actually call it a keyword or a key phrase that you use.
I have it when I'm impersonating people, and when I'm doing with Sean Connery, there's two phrases that I'll blend into. And if it's Connery, I do his Highlander thing. I want Sanchez Villalobos, King, Chief Metallurgist to the King of Spain.
Right.
You start with that, or I'll go with his Untouchables thing. You send one of his to the hospital. He sends one of yours to the hospital. You send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. Well, that's how I start into it.
And that's a key. It's a thing. If you're going to use his accents, you have to write a key phrase, keyword. And the one I used to do was here's a stupid, and I quote like this, and it's come out like that. And the way I spoke was this way, as Highland was. And so when you would speak that way, is that really chopped up, weird kind of thing. But also you throw in words you don't hear in English. Like kinda. It's like, Kenny, those, right? Which is the guy's way of saying, did you understand what I'm saying? It says, Kenny, those. What kinna and the different words mean the same thing in a kind of a brogue. Mm-hmm. And so, but it adds a realism to that character that you may want to have. The problem is, and there's resources for all that. I mean, when we were practicing, guys would come to me for the Scottish accent because I did a lot of that, and so we had a large Scottish contingent. Everyone needed to learn how to speak with a Scottish accent. They'd all come to me, and I'd give them my resources, which is a lot of movies, a lot of kind of. I had videos of certain things. This is back when there was VCRs. We didn't have DVD players. And certain movies and certain characters in certain movies, certain phrases, I would tell says, listen to this phrase over and over and over again, learn to say it, and it will be able to color the rest of your phraseology. Another little trick we would do is to make sure your beginning and your ending is perfect in what you're saying, and what's in the middle may not be quite right, but if they hear the beginning and the ending and everything else is the way it is, then it'll be remembered as being correct. The only problem is if you do a bad accent, it's going to be noticed. And that's the problem, is you have to make sure, if you're going to do an accent, do a good one. Okay? You can do a Southern accent, you can do a Tennessee accent, Texas accent, a little bit different between the two. You can do the Yankee accent, the goddamn Yankee accents, and they sound a certain way. The Midwestern accent that I learned, that I heard when I was in Detroit all the time, they have a different way of saying things. If you're going to use it, make sure you use it. And the problem is your actors will have to spend quite a bit of time, depending on where they're from, learning that. And so it's a bigger challenge than normal. Because not only do you have to be able to memorize your lines,
and
you got to say these lines in a specific way.
Yeah, and if you look at Hollywood, they have accent issues all the time. We were just talking about the Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner?
Kevin Kiosk.
He was in Robin Hood.
Yeah, the Kevin Costner fiasco, where halfway through the movie they said,
just speak.
And they had a dialect coach on set with him trying to do that.
He couldn't get it.
Yeah, so it's not easy. So even in an independent scenario, you have to. But there are going to be times where it's excused as well, though, because you start going down the comedy road, and all bets are off. I mean, I'm going to bring up the best accent I've ever heard, but it was atrocious, but it was funny and it was so characteristic. Can you think? Take a stab at who I might be thinking of?
It's that one girl whose name I can never remember, who was playing the assassin with the blind guy.
What? Why do you have a cane? You're not limp.
No, I'm not limp, but I am blind.
You're blind?
Yeah, couldn't you tell?
Well, where are your sunglasses?
Oh, God.
Oh, they should really give people like you a bell to wear or something.
Now, what the hell does that mean?
So you're really blind?
Yeah, is that going to be a problem?
You're the lookout!
No, actually, no. This was Inspector Clouseau.
Oh my God! You mean like not ours? I mean,
yeah.
I mean like in the real world. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant in ours.
Yeah. No. Does your dog bite? No. No, I mean in Hollywood.
Okay, I thought you meant in ours.
Okay, yeah, no, in Hollywood.
Okay.
Of all
Inspector Clouseau was awful.
Films, yeah.
Peter Sellers.
But it works so well.
Yeah.
And it was that character.
Yeah.
So there's the time and effort that you have to put into it, and you'll get people who just want to do accents.
Yeah.
I can't. I think I know who it is, but I can't remember. And we still, if it's who I think it is, his wife still even jokes about, he's going to try to do an accent again. But he just loves doing accents. And now I think we say no accents.
No accents.
But yeah, then like during Lady Lawman, Jake was there to say no. And everybody wanted to do an accent. Everybody wants to do an accent. I think I've done an accent once, and it was in The Benders. And it was just a little bit of an East Texas.
Just the professor, the instructor.
Questions. That's the secret to the universe, not answers. Not everything is the way it appears to be. Even when you know what it is.
All right, great.
And I didn't push it. I just added a little bit of twang to it.
A little bit of Ross Perot.
Yeah, just added a little bit to it. And I didn't because I'm not comfortable with it because it's so. Unless you have somebody there listening and saying it's a, whether it's good or not.
Right.
You're listening to your own ear. And, does it sound right or not?
You have to find someone and imitate them. I tell people a lot. You pick somebody who speaks this way, and either spend time with them or listen to recordings of them and emulate what they're saying. And that's one of the best ways to do it. But it's so challenging because you have to have someone else, okay, listen to me. Do I sound right? Am I convincing?
Yeah. And, and you don't always have to have that accent.
No, you don't.
I think we've mentioned it here before, but Hunt for Red October and Sean Connery.
Yeah.
A Russian dude, no accent there. That's full Sean Connery. He'll speak Russian, but it's full Sean Connery, man.
Yeah.
But when you got Sean Connery in the role, I don't care.
And Vasily was speaking Russian. They were all speaking Russian with their accent.
Yeah, and then you have Gorky Park, where you have all these Russians, but they're all speaking with British accents.
Yeah.
William Hurt learned how to do a British accent to play a Russian. What?
Well, Enemy at the Gates. All the Russians spoke with British accents. All the Germans spoke with a German accent, except for Ed Harris, who spoke with an Ed Harris accent.
Yeah.
So whatever.
So there are those character actors, just really great actors that you just watch and you're just pulled into just because you're so mesmerized with them, and that goes again has to go down to casting because why casting is so important.
Right.
But especially actors just starting out, and I want to do an accent. Why? Why do you want to do an accent?
Yeah, I understand why. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. I get that you want to. I get that. But yeah, you need to really... Is the accent going to add or detract from the role? Can you do it well enough to add and not detract from the role? And is it necessary? And is it going to enhance the character the way the director wants? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now there's the fun parts where, like we had talked about, Kane creating an accent. The dialects and
I would say
Klingons and Romulans.
Yeah.
They do have a way about themselves.
Well, and when I lived in Germany, I've had people. I'll be telling stories about my friends in Germany and all the problems they have with our languages, that's a whole video on itself. And people say, why do you do that German accent? Because I talk about the German speaking this way, and they go, oh, when you come to me, they have this little way of this lilt. The Southern Germans, of course. And the guy's like, you do that accent pretty good. I was like, well, I lived among them for 5 years. And all my friends, I lived in a little German town. No one spoke English. And so I used to listen to the Germans just talk all the time when they could speak English. And so if you have someone who's had that kind of experience, I lived in Russia for 7 years. You can do a pretty good Russian accent. Oh, yeah, Or I lived in Ireland, or I lived in Scotland, or I did this or that. And you can certainly use that to your advantage because it's a big help, or they can help someone else learn those accents. But once again, is it what the character needs?
So what kind of advice would you, because I can't really give too much advice because I don't mess with accents that much. Right. If an actor wants to do an accent, I'll let them, especially my earlier films. Right. Dub, I got to throw you on the bus on this one, my friend. But Dub always wanted to do an accent, and the only times I let him do them though was in like Serial Rabbit movies.
You're not from around here, are you, rude boy?
Yeah. How'd you know?
Everybody around here knows not to hustle Drake and Ice.
I did let him do it in Lady Lawman, and he hit it
he hit out of the park.
Yeah, he hit it out of the park.
You didn't want to kill the wrong man, did you, boy?
Now I know who you are.
And yet you still ain't fine.
So when someone says, well, how do I do an accent? I can tell you if it's good or not, but I can't tell you how to make it good. There's
certain things. I know British pretty well. I know German pretty well. You have to spend a lot of time listening to it. Your ear. You have to train your ear to listen for that accent, and then you have to train your mouth to duplicate the sounds you should be hearing, and that takes a little while. Which you should do. What I tell people to do. What I told people to do. When I was working at the fair was find a movie. Movies are the easiest. Movies. Or a lecture, if the person lecturing has an accent you're after, and listen to it a lot, and then practice. I mean, I would sit there. We used to use Braveheart, just not Mel Gibson. Some of the other guys that were talking, his accent was good, but I needed the guys who actually were from Scotland. Trainspotting was good for Scottish accents. There was a couple of Sean Connery was terrible for Scottish accent because it wasn't the right one. Nothing against our great friend Sean Connery. Trainspotting was good. Parts of Braveheart was good. There was a lecture I had on from the Marshall Center, and it was a Scottish, a British officer, but he was from Scotland. And he was talking about something, and so I just sit and listen to him over and over again. And I would actually rewind things and listen to it over and 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 over. I mean, not joking. I probably spent hundreds of hours listening and practicing and hanging out with people and here, listen to what I'm saying. Does it sound good? Does it not sound good? It takes a lot of time. It took me a lot of time. Some guys can just kind of pick it up. I have a pretty good Scottish accent when I practiced. I mean, I convinced people from Scotland I was from Scotland. That was pretty cool. But it takes a long time. And it was the character, I needed it for my character. I played a Scottish lord at the Ren Fair for 2 years. I had to be Scottish, you know. You've had me do all kinds of weird stuff, and you're just like, yeah, be Scottish here, be this here, be weird here. Say something that's not even in English.
Yeah.
And so I would just kind of, whatever you need, I will do it for you.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, too, is that actors, especially actors starting out, need to understand that when they're sitting around, the way we do all the time, when you'll sit here and you'll tell the spider story. The spiders are this
boy, this big, right?
You know, we laugh. It's a great, Australian, you know, and then I'll do, you know, I'll go to see you,
yes.
you know, or you know, I'll do my Scottish or my, it was just kind of like a
I do the Germans,
Irish thing.
The Germans, what is the chimpa of sheet, you know, kind of stuff.
I'll do that. But you have to understand that there's a difference between when you're bullshitting around with your friends, and we know what you're doing. We know it's that German accent.
Right.
Oh, you're an Indian accent. Oh, it's this accent. Oh, it's a German accent. And you get those laughs. That doesn't make you good at the accent.
No. There's a difference between performance and caricature. What we're doing at that point is definitely humorous and fun. And I love listening to the Germans do the American accent. They go rah 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 rah. That's how we sound to the German. Rah 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 rah. That's how the Americans sound. And I used to love that the Germans would we'd go shot 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 shot, and they go rah 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 rah, and we'd yell at each other, and it was great fun. Caricature is one thing, performance is something else. Performance is when you're actually doing the films and the shows and whatever else. That needs to be practiced and to the director's liking, more importantly. Goofing off, telling stories, but who gives a shit, you know. But yeah, when it comes to performances need to be right.
Yeah, and because we can't leave politics out of it, then if a straight person can't play a gay person or a trans person on movies, then a British person shouldn't be allowed to play an American.
Damn right.